If you look at the websites, of course, there's much more prolific internet now as there used to be, but people are trying to solve the crime themselves if it is a crime. People are blaming the parents for not hiring a trained nanny, for not having a nanny camp. We heard all of those things in Woodward, on a social level, and then the forensic case that Aisling is facing is pretty much the same that Louise Woodward faced. The state here is claiming that Aisling Brady had to have caused this injury because the baby failed or became symptomatic when she was in Aisling's custody. And this completely ignores the fact that far from the statement made by the prosecution in its probable cause affidavit to arrest Aisling, that this baby was healthy and well when left with Aisling. This baby actually had a fractured leg that was 2 weeks to 2 months old, and also had some sort of a fracture or crushed vertebra. That doesn't sound like a healthy and well baby to me. So even if one were a layperson, and even if one had not done, I've done like 500 of these cases since in 15 years since Woodward, even if one were not an expert, one would have to wonder what is going on here with this child, and why is it that Aisling has been accused. The problem is that the prosecution is hanging its hat on this theory that there could not be a lucid interval between the injury to the head and the time the baby failed or became symptomatic. And a lucid interval is where, you have a head injury and then you're lucid for a while, you're awake, and then you die. And we know that's just false. In fact, an American footballer, we just went through that with a famous American footballer where he was hit on the head during a game, and a few hours later he died from a massive head injury. So the prosecution's forensic case is not plausible, and yet, even though many people had access to this poor little child, the only person that's been accused is Aisling.
Elaine,
I don't get it.
Unlike judicial systems in the UK and in Ireland, so much is put out there so early on in this, and this has become a huge media story. Obviously in Ireland, this is a girl from Cavan. I don't know what happened, you don't know what happened, but fair procedure and the law would mean that there would be a trial if she is accused of something. She is accused of assault, and that all of the relevant information would be heard. But to read or observe the media and the arraignment, it is the murder charge has been thrown out there without any autopsy.
Well, that's right, Chris. You're absolutely right. And the problem is, in this country, we don't have this notion of a case that's sub judice or under the judicial system. So, reporters in the United States, because of the First Amendment, can report freely about what the prosecution is saying. And, of course, the prosecution is going to make public statements. In my view, I'm very cynical about this, I must admit, and tell your listeners I'm quite cynical. But in my view, the prosecution does it to pollute the potential pool of jurors. To basically convict her in the media before there's even been a trial. Details about this case, shouldn't be so freely available. The autopsy report isn't complete yet, but more than the general autopsy report, what's important to this case here, because it is going to be a timing defense, is that there's no microbiology of the injuries to tell us if these injuries are old or not. So given that we don't have that information yet, it's unfair of the prosecution, A, to charge Aisling, B, to seek an indictment for first-degree murder through a grand jury, which they will be doing, as they did with Woodward, and C, to let out any information at this point until we know all of the forensic facts.
Including,
and so Aisling is being thrown, to the dogs, as it were. So I think it's disgusting.
Including information about her immigration status.
Well, that too too, because there's both a subterranean and an overt, dislike in this country of illegal immigrants. And she's an illegal immigrant. She's an overstay on her visa. And already we're seeing the politics between the U.S. Immigration Department and the District Attorney's Office. Immigration is accusing the DA, of failing to report her presence to immigration. It's all wrapped up with this illegal immigrant taint. It's not helpful to her. Exactly, not helpful.